Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
All right, back on attack, and as you know, brands are always talking, always evolving, always discussing, and small business needs to speak to small business so that we can find solutions to our common problems. My name is Thando Mangaliso, and I am live with my beautiful wife, Vanya Mangaliso, at 27 Boxes in Melville. How are you, my baby?
Hello, Scully. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Sorry coming in a little later than usual. We just thought maybe better late than never. And welcome to the Fashions Blueprint. It's been an exciting morning. We woke up to a TV shoot, like 8 o'clock call time. So you know what time we went to sleep, preparing for the TV show. But it's really a part of what we do, something we enjoy, something we love. We always rise to the occasion, literally.
Yeah, no, after being away for a couple of weeks, it's always very nice to be back in the studio. We were out in Italy, in Torino, doing Torino Fashion Week. Torino, beautiful city, of great historical significance, as in that it was the capital of Italy until recently. And, just an opportunity to spread the idea of, African fashion, what African fashion means, not only to us, but to the rest of the world, and how African fashion can make an impact.
To open up global markets, yeah. It's been an exciting ride. And like you say, Torino, what a fascinating city. It also keeps what they call the shroud of the shroud of Turin, which is that linen that Jesus Christ was wrapped in when he after his resurrection.
Which they go on to find out was actually a fake in the end. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So tell us a bit more about.
Job.
So tell us more about the Italian job. What was happening, how it was coordinated, and what your role was there.
Really great, a great initiative and a collaboration by Department of Small Businesses, CEDA being the Small Enterprise Development Agency. That's what the acronym stands for. So basically, CEDA took the initiative to build a relationship with Torino Fashion Week as an entry into global markets. So you had the DTI, Arts and Culture, and the Minister of Small Business, as led by the Deputy Minister of Small Business, who led the delegation. And what was exciting about it actually is the fact that the minister, the deputy minister, Mr. Matali, was there in person, hand holding all the way, making sure, we've been on lots of delegations, and not delegations, lots of tours overseas to fashion weeks, and half the time, maybe even the people at the embassy are not aware that you are there, because that's how things happen. Sometimes things happen in silos.
So what was the difference between last trip and this trip?
Well, the other trips, the thing.
Other trips, yeah.
Well, if you think about it, the fact that this was a government-led initiative, and the fact, like I say, we were able to have the minister's support pre and after the show. We had the show on the 28th. I showcased on the 28th. Sangha's doing its thing in Italy, and produced the show also for 22 designers. Some of whom had never been overseas, had never showcased on a global scale. So you can imagine the dynamics and travel is very unpredictable, as you can imagine. And anything can happen. And in this case, lots of things happened.
And I'm sure your experience in shows and just going overseas helped a lot, especially for the younger designers.
That is why we were asked, to help out in our capacity as Sangha's. To share the experience and be able to pull it off, considering that the what was quite challenging, if you consider the fact that the whole crew did not speak Italian. Our backstage crew did not speak English. They spoke exclusive Italian. None of the South African designers spoke Italian. I took my chances half the time with French, and sometimes some of the people did speak French.
So it was one of those moments where, if it was meant to happen, it happened, and it did happen. In a big way.
And my French really improved, and it helped. And so we got to Torino day one. We had to set up, go meet the producers, understand where we are, the fittings, and all of that. And we had to kick off to meetings. as CEDA was in the process of also finding new markets. Also what was making it exciting, that it wasn't just about showcasing. You know, half the time, you know, I've been overseas and you showcase, and afterwards people now want to know, where can we get the clothes? And there's never any way around them to get the clothes. You say, oh no, my shop in South Africa. And then they're thinking, oh, so you're an entertainer, you're in Italy, you didn't come to sell.
So this was more about the business in fashion.
Yes, this was really exciting in the sense that now the business side was taken care of. As JJ often says, you know, your plan after showcasing must be bigger than the plan before showcasing. It can't just be a destination where you arrive.
Definitely.
And you're just happy to showcase. What then? Now that you've shown the people the clothes, then what? Where's the conversion?
Would you say that a lot of South Africans make that mistake in terms of even something like Fashion Week?
Well, yes. I think we as an industry, sometimes you tend to just focus on the showcase. You forget about behind the scenes because there's so many people there. They're your customers, they're your prospective buyers, they're your supporters, your peers. Everyone is watching. And it becomes the destination. Meanwhile, it's not. It's just part of the process. And all these other things that are set up around the fashion weeks, like the B2B matches. In this case, in Torino, there were lots of B2B2 matches.
For the sake of, the listeners, when you say B2B?
Business to business matches where you know, it's not business to consumer as opposed to, you are talking to another business, and in the sense that how do we take it forward?
How do we collaborate?
How do we collaborate? How do you make sales? How do my customers find me through you? Or how do your customers find me through you in that kind of way? In that sense, you can go to a retailer, you can go to another designer. So it is, that's how you convert from showcasing to a retail outlet. Because, you know, at the end of the day, showcasing is great, but that's really the marketing.
Right.
It's a part of it. What happens after? How do you now sustain your creativity? How do you make sales so that you are able to showcase more and market more? How do you build your marketing budget?
Now, what was the response to the show itself?
Oh no, it was great. I don't think Torino was ready was never ready for South Africa really. But they loved it, they embraced it. I mean, the one thing they were all saying before we even showcased, that they were just looking forward to color. You know, when they think Africa, they think color. They just the richness of the continent and how the colors are combined. Not that they don't wear color themselves. You know, the way they go on about color, you think that there's no color. But I think there is a particular way. You know, even as a South African, when you talk Tonga design, when you talk Ndebele, when you talk Venda, you know, you're talking distinct. You know, yes, very distinct, and certain color combinations that tell a story. They also love that about our colors, that, you know, most combinations tell a story. It's not just having a color, you know, to color. So they were very excited before we showcased. And during the showcase, there were lots of standing ovations. It was exciting. And they love the clothes. They love the designs. Obviously, one of those things that they will say, then you speak to buyers after the show and this the general public. You know, one of the things they said that, you know, they buy into the designs, they love it. But I think there's room to improve when it comes to our fabrics.
Right.
It was one of the things they highlighted, that, you know, being Italian, having the fashion industry as the number one industry in their country in terms of revenue. So you can imagine these are issues they've thought about, they've mulled over these things.
For hundreds of years, huh?
Hundreds of years, from design to fashion and the fabrics. So it was exciting to take it to the market and to get the reaction hot off the catwalk.
I think when you talk about the fabrics and the fact that they thought our fashion was not as refined as they would have liked it to be.
Well, I don't think they said not refined.
Okay, not refined.
But I know what you mean. Just not to be discouraging.
It presents a huge opportunity for South Africa.
Yes, it is a huge opportunity. But also, just logically, if you think about it, most of the fabrics that we use are hard, the stable, you know, the cottons, you think of the K sheeting, the Xhosa fabric that does impact a lot. It's very hard. The one we use from Jeka, we want it hard so it can stand, so it can pleat nicely. But if you're selling online in particular, you know from my experience that even when you're making for a client who's not going to fit, you always try and make sure that your fabrics they're stretching, people, people can easily identify them from far. Because if people don't have an opportunity to always touch the clothes before making the decision, it can sometimes delay things, because now they wonder, what does this fabric feel like? Does it give? Does it stretch? So I think as the more we continue, we will obviously explore. Obviously we can also share a little bit about the trip to Biella. Further proof just how advanced the Italian industry is and specialized. Biella is a region that specializes in cashmere and wool.
And where are they getting their wool from?
A region. They get it from all over the world. What was interesting was the fact that some of the mohair we saw in one of the factories came from South Africa.
The Eastern Cape, I'm sure.
Definitely, but they don't buy it from the Eastern Cape. They get it from Germany.
Ish.
And beautiful stuff they were making, and it's great to see South African products going to
So
the global stage.
My question, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are asking, when it gets to Germany, do the Germans refine it and work on it, or do they just move it on?
Well, I think the fabric mills in Italy and Biella, they will do their own refinements. They will do their own processing. What is particularly interesting or intriguing, it's the fact that now, as South African designers, if we are to buy that fabric from Biella, when we order it, I actually got my samples. Thank you, Biella. The Italians moved very fast. When they sell us this fabric, that's quite painful. The tariffs that we will pay will not take into account that the fabric is of South African origin. We will pay a tariff that anybody else, as if it had come from anywhere. It could have come from Brazil. So these are the things that we need to work on. We need to recommend, and thank God that fashion is now getting a seat at the table. The Deputy Minister of Small Business was very forthcoming, wanting to listen, wanting to help, inviting a fashion to the table, and we can present some of these issues and start to work on solutions. And that was something that was a bit it's a bit depressing, but it's one of those things that need to be fixed. And we're not even talking Trumponomics here. We're just talking pure common sense. That if a fabric comes from South Africa, never mind the fact that we, getting access to the finest that we produce is a lot harder when you're sitting in the country.
Everything is for export. And
Yes.
selling abroad, basically. All the
Well,
best stuff. It's like your South African fruit. The stuff that they're selling at the supermarkets is a joke, because if you look at, I remember growing up, I used to have friends that were based out in Suez. They used to show us literally the stuff that was being sent overseas, and it's just a whole new ball game. So I think
it's
with
a
the
world
mohair,
of business. It's a world of money, and I suppose when you talk exports, you're talking big money. And business will always be true to itself, and it's
so it's
mission
never
for making
personal.
money.
It's never
That's
personal.
never
It's always
personal.
business.
But I think we can negotiate a better deal as locals.
And for it not to be, like you're saying, personal, like you said, we need to negotiate better deals. We need to be more strategic. We need to be able to take our raw materials and then turn them into these processed goods that the rest of the world is actually doing and selling back to us.
Yeah, like Biella should be buying directly from South Africa. But there's hope. There's a lot of great things that are happening. I think the other time we were talking about the amount of cotton. The South African cotton clusters last year, I think they produced about 600 tons of cotton. So it is exciting. There are huge developments, things we can tap into. We can start somewhere and build it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the first part of our show. We need to go pay bills. Catch you on the other side of this. Stay tuned and keep it unlocked. Wire.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
Brand Live.
No doubt. The station with the best music. Best music.
I love the music.
Best music.
This one's explosive.
Brandlive.co.za.
Lunatic, 'cause I do what I want, and I get what I want when I want it.
live.co.za.
All right, back on attack because we are here to discuss, you know, the business of fashion. And talking about the business of fashion, one thing that I noticed when I was over in Turin is that everything is very specialized. And that specialization is an opportunity for a market to a business person to really niche themselves, really become an expert at what they do, so that by the time other people get into to what they want to do, you know, there is no competition.
Definitely, you know, it's specialized from the grassroots, from the fabrics themselves, the fabric mills, like the certain areas, right to the designers, which is what we're trying to encourage, like the fashion players. That if you're the guy that does accessories, you know, become a specialist. If you're the guy that does shoes, become the best shoe person that, you know, we can think of, that kind of specialization.
The whole value chain is specialized, basically.
The whole
like
value,
you're saying, from
totally,
grassroots,
the
everything.
entire value chain is specialized.
Everything from the time they plant the seed to the time that the garment arrives in the shop
Yeah.
is specialized.
For
So you
instance-
can imagine, so you've got this channel, it's very narrow, but it's very strong.
Ineffective,
Yeah,
like you say.
ineffective.
For instance, like the area of Biella, where we visited some of the fabrics, they specialize in just cashmere and wool, and nothing else. They will process cashmere and wool and mohair, as we said, and the reason that it is so, well, in Biella, it's something to do with the water, which I found very interesting. The purity of water, the quality of water in Biella lends itself to the production of cashmere and wool, because you need the finest, you need the best.
Yes.
And
You remind me of Switzerland and Evian. They also have that whole marketing thing going around the water and how good it is, and not only for drinking, but also for production purposes.
oh yeah, you know, you got to take care of the elements, or what you put in is ultimately what you get out, and that kind of care. And also, you know, we were able to go and see the end product. You know, to be taken through the factory to see how it starts from a yarn. I don't think, you know, not everyone had actually seen the origins of a fabric. When you get these meters and meters of fabric, how does it start? What is a yarn? So it was, and somebody can tell you about these things until you see it. You see them, the bobbins arriving, the big bobbins arriving, and they're loading them on, and they're making this fabric, like your tartans, for instance, what you're wearing, this kind of thing. You know, how they do it. Because it's got multicolors, so you start with one color. Really, really exciting. And I think if a lot more people saw how fabrics are made, I think we'd have a lot more appreciation for what we have, because we now live in a culture of fast consumption, disposable fashion, and I think most people would decide that, you know what, as opposed to having 100 skirts that I like, I would rather have just 10 beautiful skirts that I'm absolutely mad about.
Yes.
Where quality supersedes quantity.
And in terms of these companies and their green footprint and their approach to green footprint, did you find them, you know, environmentally
Definitely.
viable, or is it
Yes.
a lot of dye and a lot
Oh,
of
no,
waste
no, I
and
think
a lot of...
Yeah. They have to take care of the environment. I think for them to sustain what they do, you know what it's like to make what it takes to make denim. The amount of water it wastes. So all those things have to be taken, and that's why these days recycled denims are just the big thing, because we want to take care of those issues. Where must you create another pair of jeans really in the world, as opposed to recreating one, you know, restyling one. And these are things that we need to think about as a people. It's the same issue with plastics, where very hard to recycle plastic. In fact, it's not biodegradable at this stage. George running away, and so these companies have to. What was also lovely about Biella, them doing things right, is that one of the factories we went to, 80% of the staff were female.
Wow.
Had these women operating these big machines, and the manager there was telling us that, you know, some of them have been there for more than 40 years. So you know what that would be like in our business if you had staffers that had been there since, if we could keep staffers that had been there from inception. What would it mean in terms of experience and what they contribute to the company? So it is something to be proud of, and it's something to be nurtured. Not only do you nurture the environment, you nurture your people. You know, that's the basis for building a circular economy, is that will be sustainable in the future. And we're talking there's businesses that are growing at 4 times the size of your average
Normal, yeah.
businesses, yeah. And talking about growth in fashion, another exciting thing was modest fashion, which has become big business as led by the Islamic Council of Fashion and Design.
So when you say modest fashion, what are we talking about here?
Well, modest fashion, it's really fashion that speaks to people whose style is informed by their sense of values and spirituality, really.
Right. So more like, let's say, for example, just a simple example, a Muslim lady
You take a
wearing.
Yes, you take a Muslim lady who wants to be covered, who likes to wear the headscarf, but doesn't want to look like a grandmother, or
Right.
doesn't want to look like she stepped out of a mosque. She wants to still reflect her values, still reflect her spirituality, but be exciting. So your big brands have gone into it. You know, some have done it better than others, like Dolce & Gabbana in particular did a really bad job of it. And they had to go back to the drawing board, and others have made the transition really successfully.
I think Zara in
'Cause-
Morocco,
Because you can't
that's a
just
success story.
that when it comes to chain stores, yes, you can't just quickly think you're gonna cash in. It's a discerning market. These are people who spend, like for instance, around Ramadan, they'll spend an average of above $500 for Ramadan on the look. So you do the conversion in South Africa. If you can have just 4 Ramadan clients who are spending that kind of amount, because you're giving them what they want. You're giving them something exciting, something that's for them. It's not condescending. It's not a cut and paste, a slapdash.
It's comfortable for them and falls within their culture and their beliefs.
So this is a market that is quite big. It's been growing substantially, and lots of people are cashing in on it. We had the president, the chairperson, and the founder of the Islamic Council, Laila Khan, a really exciting lady, talking big figures, talking staggering numbers about where this is all going, what big business Ramadan fashion is, and you kind of see how the world is changing and is evolving. Remember, you know, we're watching an insert the other day on CNN, one of the sheikhs in Dubai, he was saying, you know, in the past Ramadan they would be slower, they would do nothing, they would want to go to bed early, but now they push into the night. They make sure that they're working, you know, you don't lose time. So it's also a great time for economic growth. Like we've often discussed in the past, that how do you become a part of these significant dates, like Ramadan, like June 16th, like Shabbat 21, things that mean something to your community and your customers. How do you make sure that you participate and you benefit economically? You know what it's like when it's Ramadan. You and I tend to fast in Ramadan. We've been doing it for the past 7 years. So you watch them all, it's slower, nothing is happening. But all of that is changing. People are more active. They're also aware of
They're actually using Ramadan to spur themselves on.
Yes, not just inwardly, because it's really a great time to look inwardly, reflect, regroup, and plot the way forward. You know, just take care of yourself. So I think it's also like a time to make sure that your environment, because you know that, you know, if you really want to improve the world, if you want to improve your life, not only do you improve yourself, but the world around you, the immediate world around you. And your creativity can be used for something bigger than just beauty and the sake of it, aesthetics or even optics.
All right, now that's deep, eh? Very, very deep. We're coming towards the end of our show, and you know, we just wanted to discuss, you know, possible highlights that are going to be coming up in the next few weeks, and what's just been happening in general at Sun Goddess.
Yeah, and you know, coming from Torino Fashion Week was exciting, like a great eye opener. It is part of our strategy for export, to open up our markets. You know, it's taking local style to global fashion, to global market, to opening it up. You know, we live in a globalized world, and there is no reason why South Africans shouldn't have a slice of the market. We've done some exciting things as a country, lots of great developments, and it's about time that, you know, African fashion gets the rightful place on the global stage.
I also think as young people who are in design, don't think of yourself as a small player, you know.
No.
Start thinking
Don't.
of yourself as trading on the global scale. If you look at South Africa, for years, all we've ever exported was, a combination of your raw materials. If you think of steel, gold, your agri-processing, like your fruits, your honeys, your nuts. But, now what is the next step? Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa spoke very passionately about the black industrialist. Government is really, really pushing people to, think outside the box. What more can Africa give? And there's just so much to give, as opposed to just raw materials. We must get into secondary industry. We must get into processing of all forms of goods. I'm not just only talking design. I'm just talking, whether it's, why doesn't South Africa manufacture a car, for example? We've got all these cars, we've got all the technology, but why aren't we manufacturing a car? You
No.
think of cell phones. Where are the black industrialists who are going to manufacture a phone from
Why
South
not?
Africa that is going to take on Samsung? And that's the question that we must be asking ourselves. We must keep our heads up. We must believe in ourselves as South Africans, and we must be able to contribute to global GDP through our industrial development and selling across the world, basically.
Yeah, no, make strides. Like, at the manufacturing Ndaba not too long ago, they were sharing some amazing figures in terms of, where the new markets are. You take China, for instance. We weren't always exporting our citrus there. It was coming from America. But since 2006, because we tried, we went for it. Like you were saying, why wait? Why not try other things? We are now exporting more to China than America.
Yep.
So it can happen, as in we send into China more citrus fruit than America does, and it was traditionally an American market. So we can make strides, we can go for it, and we should. It's really about trying. It's about industrializing. It's about the fourth industrial revolution. How do we become a part of it? And seeing where we are positioned strategically as South Africa, we also have this big market on our doorstep. We are a gateway to Africa, and also the lessons that we can learn there will be far cheaper than trying to do it across the seas.
Definitely. I think, it's one thing to export to Europe and things like that, but I think if we can just focus on SADC, a lot of us haven't been exporting, but you know how much easier it is to get to Namibia. You know how much easier it is to get to Harare or Gaborone.
Or for them to come to you.
Yes. So that, I'm not saying don't go overseas, but as a gateway into Africa, let's start using,
Those are low-hanging fruits, I think.
Low-hanging fruits, and also barriers to entry are not as great.
Exactly, and you talk international trade, lots of complications. You talk IP. There's always a language barrier which is very real. So your low-hanging fruits are countries around you that speak the same language. Even when things do go wrong, how do you handle disputes? It just makes it easy if you're more familiar with those kind of systems. But at the same time, it is a global world. You can play really anywhere. Go where no one has been. First find out why no one's been before you go.
Yeah, no, of course. And as we come to the end of the show, it's amazing how time flies, how much fun we have, and how informative the show is. People have been giving great feedback. So I want to say thank you to everyone for logging on Instagram and Facebook. And I think all I can say is that as young people in South Africa who are looking to industrialize, let's make sure that we industrialize, but more importantly, economize as well.
Definitely. No, thank you for tuning in. It is an exciting time. You need to look out. And the designers that went to Torino Fashion Week are in the process of taking the project forward. It can't just end there. It's not just about showcasing. It's about making sure that we are creating sustainable economies so our creativity can outlast us, because that's really what it's about. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the feedback. As we said, today we're running a little later than usual. Next week we will be back at our usual slot at 12:13. And apologies that we're not live on Facebook or Instagram, just technical glitches. But the podcast will be available on our Facebook pages, on all our social media. And it's another exciting day for us. It's Friday the 13th. I don't know if you subscribe to that, Scully?
No, not at all. But everyone must just be safe, eh? Everyone must be safe.
Well, I came from Torino. It's a town of mysticism and all sorts of legends. I'm just in that realm. And this morning when I woke up, a bird flew into the house and into the skylight, and it was trying to fly out. And I was thinking, how do I save this bird? And I thought, maybe it's a good omen. Maybe it's here to spread luck. Unfortunately, it's confused me for a statue. And you know how that went down.
Ish, but that is good luck as well, so don't worry about it.
I took it in the...
Okay, guys, so remember, young people, industrialize and economize. Brandlive.co.za from 27 boxes in Melville. Catch you same time, same place next week, man. Looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za.